when you decided you wanted to be in a band?
Seeing Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah?
City Hall as a 14-year-old boy.
Right. And what sort of music were you listening to around that time? Was it rockier stuff?
No, not really, just things that were in the charts. You know, like, because they were quite, the Who and the Stones, everything was in the charts at that time, in the 60s.
Yeah.
So it was chart stuff that, I mean, not so much, the Beatles were okay.
Yeah.
They were mainly into the Who and the Stones and Hendrix.
How did you get your first guitar?
My dad took me to Doncaster and bought it. In fact, it's in Doncaster Museum now. It's a museum piece.
And how did you go about learning? Did you just get some books or something?
Just self-taught.
Yeah?
The books weren't really happening because they were, at that time in the 60s, it was flamenco or jazz or piano music for guitar, which were usually wrong.
Yeah.
Don't know, obviously no YouTube or anything like that. But you just had to wing it.
Because you worked in a factory, didn't you? And you hurt your finger.
I did, yes, at Swinton. But I left and to go professional guitarist. Because
Yeah.
I got made redundant actually. And it was only 6 months after that I damaged my finger in an accident with the door. The door slammed on it.
Oof. So did you have to change the way you played the guitar due to that?
Of course, yeah. It was the first finger.
Yeah.
So it's a massive digit in guitar playing.
Yeah.
So I had to reinvent things and not only learn to play guitar, but to be on stage and run about and compensate for such an accident.
Yeah, must have hurt.
It did.
Well, your first band was Son of a Bitch, wasn't it?
No, it was Blue Condition.
Oh, was it? Oh, sorry. Yeah, how did that come about?
In 67, I had a little band called The Syndicate, but they wanted to play pop music and I wanted to play more rocky music, so we didn't see eye to eye. And then in 1969, me and Steve Dawson met up, had a little band in the end called Blue Condition, which is a song by The Cream, sung by Ginger Baker. And we got Steve Firth and a drummer called Dave Bradley. And we did local pubs. In fact, his first gig was at the Canal Tavern at Swinton for 10 shillings. And then me and Steve went to see Free a lot. Before All Right Now was a big hit. They had an album out called Tons of Sobs. And we thought Blue Condition was a bit of a naff name, so we changed it Sob from the album Tons of Sobs. It was only years later when we did a gig in London when Byford and Paul Quinn joined our band as Sob that it was in the punk period. We decided to call it Son of a Bitch. So that's how that came around.
And you eventually merged with Coast, didn't you?
They actually joined us. We did gigs as Sob first.
Yeah.
Whatever Wikipedia says. We did a load of gigs as Sob first because we had a band and we lost our singer. We had a load of dates to fill. And Biff and Paul Quinn had lost their drummer because they were a three-piece. So we asked them to join Sob and they did. So actually Steve Dawson asked Biff to join and Paul Quinn.
Yeah.
They had a demo tape.
Yeah.
And said this guy's a really great singer. We should have him in our band. It only became a 5-piece band, really, when we changed the name to Son of a Bitch.
Yeah.
It became a 5 like-minded people. There was no leader at that time. So it wasn't really a merge, it was a change. I suppose it was, but in a way, but not as it's documented at points.
Yeah. And were you writing your own music back then?
Yes, when me and Steve were together in Sob, we were writing his own music. We were doing a full set of his own music before even Biff and Paul came on the scene. In fact, I've just recently received recordings of it that people had done
Oh, right, cool.
Really good.
Yeah.
Like one of our early songs on Wheels of Steel, called Freeway Mad, is an old sob song that we wrote with Steve Firth and Steve Dawson.
Obviously, punk was coming out around about that time. Were you influenced at all by any of the punk stuff?
We did a couple of gigs with The Clash, and the Sex Pistols were around when we were, but the music was a bit raw. I think the ones that did well are the ones that I think it was more of a fashion than anything else, punk. It's not like heavy rock, like Deep Purple were out,
Yeah.
Black Sabbath were out, and they're still touring and still popular, where the punk's gone. Just about, they have resurgences now and again, but the longevity in rock music is something that's really special, I think.
I think so as well. Yeah, it's.
But we had the enthusiasm, the energy of the punks. Back then, we were all in the early 20s, but we had the musicianship, whereas a lot of the punk bands didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them, if you played in Leeds or Bradford and you weren't any good, you got bottled off.
Yeah.
Anyway, whereas if in London, you could just be a fashion.
Yeah.
And miss it. Oh yeah, we saw them. The Susie and the Banshees are great. But if they come up here, people, they want to stand it. They deliver. And that's where we thought we formed our craft, playing South Wales, because all these places had loads of working men's clubs. And all the clubs was struggling. So they started having rock nights. For example, up in just north of Newcastle, there's one town got 29 clubs, and we used to do them and do rock nights. Sunderland Boilermakers Club. we used to play there and sell it out after a while, doing his own music. It was a long process, but they all used to say, "Oh, we had so and so here; they were terrible punk bands, But the Pistols album, Never Mind the Bollocks, that's a great rock. I don't really class that as a punk album. I class that as but Never Mind the Bollocks and God Save the Queen and all them songs. They are just rock songs. Could be any rock band doing them.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Spedding did a lot of the guitar on that album.
So how did the songwriting work then? Was there a sort of a leader when it came to songwriting, or did you all sort of pitch in?
No, what happened is me and Paul Quinn had come up with riffs. Like my riffs, The Power and the Glory, Wheels of Steel, Never Surrender, Denim and Leather, Hungry Years, lots of them. The slow, free type riffs are mine, and the fast, kind of busy riffs are Paul Quinn's, like Princess of the Night.
Yeah.
So we'd come up with these riffs. We'd come to our little bedroom in my council house in Mexborough.
Yeah.
Down at Dryden Road. And we'd just knock about and get some riffs together, and we'd take those riffs to a band rehearsal. And everybody else would chip in and make the song the riffs into a song with arrangements. It was a collective.
Yeah.
That's the best way of describing it. And when that collective stopped writing that way, the success seemed to diminish. And that's not me just saying it. The statistics prove that.
Yeah.
When Steve Dawson went, he was losing part of the team.
Yeah.
And he was very important in the team. As was Pete Gill. Because Pete was in the rehearsal room, working out while everybody else were in bed. And he was just going boom, boom, cackle, with doing a drum beat. And I picked the guitar up and I just played the intro. Da, 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 da. And Steve Dawson came in and he started playing the bass line, which is just grooving on A, the A string. And then we had the makings of a great song. Then when all the everybody else got together. Paul Quinn came together, and he put an alternate rhythm, a contra rhythm to my intro.
Yeah.
It came in later, and then Pete Gill said, you know, if we play this in such a way and go into the middle eight, breakdown into pre-solo, and that's how it all worked. Then Biff had an idea for the vocal melodies, and we all helped with song writing the lyrics. Mainly Steve Dawson and Biff and Pete Gill, because Pete Gill and Steve were better scribes. Biff writing like he ought to be the doctor, to be honest. And his spelling, so it weren't so. Gill and Dawson were a better scribe. So they used pen and paper. But no, that's how that song was born, and that's how many other songs were done.
So let's say you wrote a song, you were rehearsing it. How much would it evolve before it got put onto an album or a record? Would it, would you play it live and change bits of it to, things that work better?
Well, when you first do an album, you're doing your song set that's been tried and tested in pubs and clubs for 2 or 3 years. So all them problems, all them faults and niggles and bits have all been ironed out, and all the songs have been honed to a fine perfection.
Yeah.
And when you get to the second album, half of the live sets is still evident, but you've got new songs to fill the album.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to play them live. They do change live. Sometimes you'll play them a bit faster live, but you don't actually get to play them live until you get gigs and you record them, because everybody wants to hear the stuff that they listen to on the album.
Yeah, what they're familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did your first record deal come about?
We played a gig at the North East, Easington Village Club, and John Verity, who produced our first album, came up with a guy called Dave Thomas. And Dave Thomas were part of the Sheffield Brothers Empire, who signed Queen, but that just fell apart after a while. A flick of the wrist, or is a put down and not Sheffield Brothers. But they got us our first deal with Career Records. And we ended up flying to Paris. In actual fact, Freddie, who now works in Nashville and lives in Nashville, Freddie Cannon, who actually was the A&R guy that signed us and took us to Career Records, in his boss in Paris, said the only reason that what clinched the deal was my guitar solo on Frozen Rainbow on the demo. He says that was a deal changer. And he went on Facebook stating that in the last, about 6 months ago.
Yeah, alright, cool. So what was it like working in the studio for the first time? What surprised you the most about working in the studio?
Well, we'd been in a few local studios.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time we went in a studio, we saw down in Hitchin to record some demos. So we've done demos before.
Yeah.
So the only thing you're conscious about is time, and if you stop and have a conversation about football for an hour, you just lost £100.
Yeah.
So you get used to working fast and getting down with the energy and feel of the live performance.
Did the way you wrote songs change after working in the studio? Did that affect your songwriting?
I still write riffs the same now as I did back in the day. I've been working on some now in this bedroom where I'm speaking from, little music room, and it's exactly the same process. And if I went into a studio, I'd just record them. The only thing you can do is, what you do is sometimes in the studio is routining and arranging. it might change when you start listening to things back. Oh, that works better if it's a bit shorter. Oh, that works better. That chorus is stronger if you put this chord in. So that's the only way, the only difference. Whereas,
Do you tend to switch between guitars depending on what sort of sound you're after?
no. Yeah, but about 18 guitars. If I'm doing guitar solos, I obviously won't do Dallas solo or Frozen Rainbow on a Stratocaster. It has to be a guitar that's got easy access for my handicap,
Yeah.
like an SG guitar or a 24 fret guitar,
Yeah.
a 22 fret. So I can get easy access to the 12 fret and just above it.
So what do you think the big difference was? So we had like the sort of older rock groups like Deep Purple. Saxon has sort of banded in with the new wave of British music, aren't they? What do you think was the big difference to styles?
I think the energy of the punks. We took that on board, and we did the long drawn out guitar and drum solos.
Yeah.
And I think some of the other bands, I mean Deep Purple, I mean we went to see them a couple of times and nicked some of their act, to be honest.
Right.
I don't know really, it's hard to tell. We just did it in just how we did it. This is how we do it, and we do it this way. And we started doing our music in the most unfashionable time to do our music. Because punk was at its foremost. But we didn't do music to be successful. We did music what we wanted to play.
Yeah.
I think with energy, and I think that came across. Whereas the other bands got a bit ponderous. I mean, I went to CES with a friend whose wife took ill. She couldn't use the ticket. It was the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. Doing Tales of the Topographic Oceans live.
Right.
No wonder these bands, The other hand, I went to see Rainbow.
Yeah.
We ran a deal in Manchester in '76. They were a fantastic show. It was fantastic. And Dio's, 30 odd years later, I was on stage with Dio, invited by himself to play Rainbow in the Dark as we did the tour, the last gig of the tour with Dio on Killing the Dragon tour with O.D. Saxon, so what a great moment.
Well, Wheels of Steel was your big breakout album, wasn't it? So
It was his first album, flopped. Just Saxon. The album, it was produced a little bit not like we play.
Yeah.
We got John Verity to produce. He was a smashing guy and a talented guy. But he put that backing vocals where we would have had none. And although Stallions of the Highway became a big hit on Neil Kay's alternative metal chart, and that sort of thrust us on a little bit as well. When we made Wheels of Steel, we just went in the studio, the whole studio, which was a great vibe anyway. And we just, the first half of the album were done with just me, Pete Gill, and Steve Dawson on instruments and Biff on guide vocals because Paul Quinn was ill.
Yeah.
He stayed at home in Barnsley for, I think it was a week. And so we just played Wheels of Steel track and Freeway, Mad, and some more, Taking Your Chances. We just played them down live and recorded them live. And then Paul came and put his parts on and Biff did the vocals. It were all done really, as live as possible.
Yeah, and it sounds better for it, doesn't it? It's got that
Of course it does, although the production, to be fair, isn't brilliant. Compared to Innocence Is No Excuse. But yeah, there again, it was the Osbourne's first album production. I was going to say, oh, that snare drum's not right, or that bass drum. You just take the whole thing, when I listen to Free or Are You Experience, I weren't analysing the sounds.
Yeah.
I just listened to the album, and it sounded great, the songs,
Yeah.
Wheels of Steel does that. It had a unique sound of its own.
Yeah, I think so. I still play it quite regularly. Actually, it's one of my favourite ones.
Yeah.
Especially the track, the 747 Strangers in the.
We got out. We needed a few more songs, so we went to a farm on a mountain in Wales,
Right.
South Wales, owned by one of the Silver Machine guys, Outwind guys.
Hmm.
And it was January. It was freezing cold. It was purgatory, to be honest. And we were in a barn, shivering. And Paul Quinn had got this. Well, I'd got this. Da, 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 da. And Paul Quinn put the great guitar melody on it, which is brilliant, you know. And then we were having dinner at night, and that guy called Raymond, was it Raymond Burke? He was on. He used to do programs about scientific things.
Oh yeah. I remember him. Yeah.
He had glasses. And,
yeah, I remember him.
And he would do a program all about when one small substation tripped out and took out the whole of New York, including Kennedy Airport.
Right.
And we were watching this, and it said there was 747 coming down. It had to abort and take off and pull back off because as it were landing, the landing lights went out.
Right.
So I don't know whose idea it were, but we're all sat having dinner watching this TV program, and we just turned it into a song. Lifted the melody, vocal melodies as always, and changed the words around them, because the singer's job is to make words. You know, if me and you, I don't know about you if you're a singer, I don't know, but if you're doing, you tend to write like poetry.
Yeah.
If you're not a singer, and you need to have words in order that are singable and slip off the tongue.
Yeah.
And if you're not a non-singer, you tend to just write lyrics.
Yeah.
And so that, we turned it into a song, and it became one of our biggest known songs, really. So that's how that came about.
Oh, excellent. So, do you think your music changed over time? Do you think your style changed over time as a band?
I think there are outside influences that tried to change us. Sometimes we tried to follow. We should have just stuck to our guns and done what we did.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is you've got MTV starting in America.
Hmm.
You've got Motley Crue starting in America, who we toured with. You've got all the, so MTV's the way. You've got your record company telling you, you've got to have a better image because it's all changing. And sometimes, these people sell records, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, this is what you think. So what we should have done is stuck to his guns and just, so, in a sense, it's no excuse, even the title sucks. Should have been something like, just something a bit more in keeping with what our image were. We had a great image to start with, his own image, and we shouldn't have changed it, really. But like I said, outside influences.
Was your record company ever trying to change the way you were doing things as well?
Not really.
No? Did you have quite a bit of freedom?
Yeah, the only thing that EMI did after Steve Dawson left was insist that they hired a producer.
Yeah.
And the producers that they hired knew fuck all about what we were.
Yeah.
And so after after Pete Gill went and Steve Dawson, like I said, don't take my word for it, it's not me just being negative.
No.
You have to look at the statistics that prove the gold record stopped.
Yeah.
And the silver record stopped when Gill and Dawson went.
Why did them two leave?
It's a long story. It wouldn't be really right, so you'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
Pete Gill, the management getting rid of people, because management took 5 working lads who were from a working background, and they were paying us our wages that we were earning, but they made it look like they were paying us, and our working class mentality was saying thank you when I took the paid us. But our money, we should have been paying him.
Yeah.
It's only years later that you realise that. And when they're manipulating this situation, and they find the weakest person in the band, well, or not the weakest, the easiest to manipulate.
Yeah.
That's not say who it were, but and saying, you have to be like Ozzy Osbourne, you're in charge and pay all his wages, and that's what the manager that did all that is now deceased, so he ended up being the richest man in the graveyard,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He turned up at the airport before we went to America with a publishing extension agreement, saying you need to sign this so I can pay your wages to your wives while you're on tour in America. And we thought, we better sign that, and really we should have said, piss off. Not signing anything,
Yeah.
Our publishing. And it's with the money we make, you should be invoicing us. But you only learn these things years and years later. Because all you want to do when you're at that age, you go into America for first or second or third time is get there and play your music, have a good time.
What was the difference, do you think? Was there any differences in playing in America than the UK?
Yeah, we were big in Albuquerque. We ended up in West Coast, and we play Santa Monica Civic on the East Coast. We play clubs. It's such a vast country, you don't realise how big it is till you tour it.
Yeah. You've been on Top of the Pops a few times, haven't you? How did you think about that?
We were featured on Top of the Pops 8 times.
Wow.
4 times live, and then 4 times repeat. In fact, no more than that. Play the video again. So, but we did 4 live shows. In fact, one of the times we did it, there were 2 other people who lived in Mexborough on the same show.
Was there?
Yeah, Hazel O'Connor and Tony Capstick.
Ah, right. I didn't know Hazel O'Connor was from Mexborough. That's weird.
She's not. She used to live in Mexborough on Church Street.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
So that were a pretty odds of that happening ever again.
So what was the studio like? Because I keep hearing stories that it was a lot smaller than it looks. They just sort of make it look bigger, don't they?
When we did the studio at Top of the Pops, we were at the BBC Broadcasting House. We went to Manchester like in the early days.
Ah, okay.
It was at the big studio where all the whistle tests were and that. And it was a huge studio with 3 stages. And it took all day to film from 10 o'clock in the morning, nearly 10 o'clock at night.
Was it just loads of retakes and things like that?
Yeah, you did rehearsals first, and then you'd be set up on one stage, and then you'd do your bit, and all the crowd would be moved to that, and then they'd move all cameras to the next stage for the next act. I think Depeche Mode, I remember, and Johnny Rotten were on with us at one of times. It does take a long time.
Elton John was on a couple of your tracks, wasn't he? How did all that come about?
Well, we were recording in Visselord, the Rock the Nations album. The first album since Steve Dawson was not in the band. And Elton John was in the next door studio, Studio A, and we were in Studio B. And we used to have dinner together in the community cafe.
Yeah.
And we'd done this song called Northern Lady. And our producer, Gary Lyons, at the time said, hey, that'd be great if we could get Elton to play the intro on his piano, on the intro to Northern Lady. And so he asked him, and he says, I thought you'd never ask. And stopped his session and did our session. He played all the way through Northern Lady. And then we did a jam, Fight Till You Puke, and that went on the album as well. And we were the first band he ever guested on.
You met Harry Shearer, didn't you, from Spinal Tap?
When we did the Strong Arm of the Lord tour,
yeah,
Harry Shearer, our manager, was involved in music movies. Because one of our videos, Power and the Glory, were done by Gladiator producer. He actually did Tony Capstick's video as well.
Ridley Scott,
that's it.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott did Power and the Glory video. Because Nigel Thomas, our manager at the time, he invested money in films, probably our money. We got asked, these guys from America doing a comedy video, a movie about called Spinal Tap. We had no idea what it was. And so Harry Shearer came on the road with us for a week in our tour bus. And Towler just hung about in the background, taking notes and observing. And he based his character on Steve Dawson. He told us that. We had a meeting with him in London about 10 years ago. And the part in the movie where the guitarist falls backwards, it's me.
Oh, is it?
I run onto the stage and slipped, playing the intro to Motorcycle Man. And I kept playing the intro, and Rob Price at my guitar tech run on and picked me up, and I never stopped playing. And now they saw this, you see. So it ended up in the movie.
Great. Is there any other bits of the movie that you recognised?
No, not really. The only thing is when he's trying to get out of the pod.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Harry Shearer about Bill Nelson on his tour. I must have thought he used to come down in a pod. And one day it jammed, he couldn't get out. But Harry Shearer swears it weren't that. They came up with it on their own, but I don't believe him.
It's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it?
A bit of a coincidence. He admitted the other, he admitted the Steve Dawson. Playing strings like, because Steve had started strung Hammer of the Law.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 with one hand pointed up to the sky and just one hand on the bass, playing the home string. So that's what Harry Shearer did, but he lampooned it even more.
So why did you leave Saxon?
Because it's a long story, but there was a guy running the band in Germany who's also died, so he can't speak for himself. So the only thing I'll say on the subject is my request for openness and accountability wasn't well received.
Right.
And the guy who's died now can't answer for himself.
Yeah.
Had a lot to answer for.
Right. Okay.
In fact, he was prosecuted for tax evasion of 600,000 Deutschmarks, which is £250,000.
Right. Well, you carry on playing, don't you? And I believe your son's in the
Yes,
band.
me and Steve Dawson carried on playing.
Yeah.
Because we were going to we did an album with Son of a Bitch with Pete Gill called Victim You. And that was a great album, but it was a project album with an American singer.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we did some gigs in Germany and Belgium, and we absolutely stormed it. In fact, we did one with Kingdom Come, who were headlining. And they said, after I said, down the mic, live to the crowd, how can we follow that? It were that good. And it was that good that the guy I just mentioned about who's died was a very powerful guy. And he told all the promoters not to book us. And I found this out years later.
Yeah.
So they kind of ended our feasibility to earn money and be a band.
Yeah.
So the guy had to go back to America. Pete Gill had to, there was no financial reward because the guy said, because the guy who did that was a very powerful guy who booked Motorhead and lots of bands.
Yeah.
And he put them with other promoters. So, unfortunately, he had that power to do that, which is a pretty shitty thing to use politics.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's dead now, he can't answer for himself, but I think it was there's enough room for both bands.
Yeah.
My Son of a Bitch. But then when we reformed with a different drummer and different singer, local promoters in England had booked us if they could use Saxon name, like Ian Gillan from
Yeah.
Purple. And so we did so. We ended up going to court and being OD Saxon. Because if it was just Graham Oliver Band, which it is now, and I'm just doing it in fact, I'm just still in rehearsals and wondering whether I'll go out on the road or not. Just to do a few shows.
Yeah.
In fact, they've asked me to go back to Japan as Graham Oliver. As Oliver's Army next year. So, but it's difficult. You need a brand name.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I remember Bernie Marsden's band playing a gig, and he had more members of Whitesnake in it than Whitesnake had. It's Bernie Marsden's Alaska or something, you know.
I'm glad to see you still playing though. I mean, you're still making good music and that, so I'm happy about that.
Well, I'd like to record something before I pack it all together, but I've had a terrible problem with my left arm. It's a combination of inactivity, and I had my COVID jabs in my left arm. I don't know if that's got anything to do, and I don't know if it has or not. And I've had a nerve damage in my neck.
Yeah.
Due to arthritis. So I've just done a gig in Vienna as a guest with a guy who used to play with Mark Boland doing. So I played Mark Boland's parts for a video and a live gig. Solos I kept to a minimum because it's mainly string bending that's the problem.
Well, thanks for the interview, mate. That's been great.